Hello, this is the With CP podcast. I'm Charles Douglas, Executive Director of Common Power.
And I'm Binh Truong, Common Power's Fieldwork Senior Program Manager.
And this is the podcast where we bring you with us with Common Power and explore one facet of this super awesome organization that does a lot of civic action all over the country. We get people ready to talk to voters. We do that through education and training. We catalyze folks and then we send them out in the field. We're going to talk about some of that catalyzation today with our special guest, Dr. Devin Geary. Devin,
Hey,
hello.
folks. Hi. Happy to be here.
Dr. Devin Geary, for the rest of the podcast, we'll mention you as just Devin. If that's okay.
That's
Wait.
absolutely fabulous.
Wait, Dr. Devin Geary, can you introduce yourself with who you are as a CP, your
I
title?
can. I totally can. Hi, my name is Dr. Devin Geary, and I'm a senior program manager with the Institute for Common Power. And with the Institute, I do everything that I can to support the incredible programming and initiatives that we drive. And so I'm helping with learning tours. I'm behind the scenes with different courses and lectures and workshops that we offer. And then I also offer through Common Power a fieldwork training. And I do that with a woman named Mary Ingram. She's my partner, and we help train folks who are going into the field to be more mindful and intentional and thoughtful about the way that they communicate, especially when we get to do such incredible radical work of being in diverse community. And so we just want to support those relationships and those connections and that building of community. Happy to be here.
Mary's your work partner, and you under the umbrella of Dialogue for Democracy, right?
Exactly right. Yep. Dialogue for Democracy.
And that shows up as a training for our team leads, a training for volunteers that is open to anybody, some smaller exercises on the ground when we travel with teams, and also in cars, and then soon in squads. So you're working on a bunch of different stuff that helps us work across difference at CP.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anywhere where we think that we can help kind of cultivate and strengthen community and support people and connecting across our difference and being just mindful of that, we try to offer content and materials to help folks.
I love that. And how are you entering this space right now?
How am I entering into this space right now? I'm just going to interpret that how I hear it, and I would say with joy. With
Good.
joy. Yeah, I'm just feeling happy. It's so lovely to see both of you. And we just last week went through I think it's last week, right? Today's Monday. I get
I have
a
no
little
idea.
mixed up.
I
We've
lose
been
track of time.
traveling. We've been traveling quite a bit.
Yeah.
We were in Las Vegas, and I did a training there with Mary, and then the three of us, sorry, and Puya went to Auburn, Alabama to train with Dr. Bernard Lafayette. So I'm still riding a nice wave after all that.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I went to Vegas for work.
Yes.
Vegas is like one of those cities we have to say, I went to Las Vegas for an official reason. I was busy doing work. Okay. Ben, how about you?
I say I'm coming in a little reflective, right? Again, probably because of the nonviolence training that we went through last week, but also the weather has just gotten me a little introspective, right? The rain falling down. I'm in a coffee shop. I'm chilling. It's like the perfect storm for just what happened the last week and just processing all of that.
You're wearing corduroy. You're doing very Seattle things right now. If you're wearing
That's right.
Birkenstocks with socks, you're spot on, Seattle.
Not in the rain. Who does that?
No, even in the especially in the rain.
It's a trick
It's the
question.
Birkenstocks. Yeah, Birkenstocks with socks and a rain jacket, fully
Those are
aware that it's raining.
Have
Yep,
you ever done that, Charles?
contradictory.
Have you
Never.
Birkenstocked and socked? Never?
I don't think he even has
Never.
Birkenstocks. Do you know what they are? Do you know how they
Operate?
Sounds like someone's last name. I don't.
it is. Yeah. Just like Nike,
Okay, okay. I'm also coming to this space rested, but also joyful. I think that we have been through a lot, and I'm looking forward to not traveling for a couple weeks here. This is the calm before the storm in the fall, and we're getting a lot of things prepared for a big launch in the summertime. So we get to look back at all the great work we've done, um, getting folks trained and getting ready for this massive push. Uh, but you mentioned the training with Dr. Lafayette, and we're going to jump into that because what we experienced with him says a lot about where CP is today and connects very neatly into your work as well.
Yep.
But Ben, take it away.
All right, let's do it. So I think before we even begin talking about like just like unpacking all of these words, like non-violence training with Dr. Bernard Lafayette, I feel like we can spend an hour on each of those words. So we're gonna spend 5 minutes on each of those words. So let's start with Dr. Bernard Lafayette. Devin, who is he? Right? Who is Dr. Bernard Lafayette?
Totally. So with the Institute and Dr. Terry Ann Scott, I got to give her a shout out because she had the idea for these. We're creating playing cards for foot soldiers of the civil rights movement. So we've got Charles Malden, we've got Joanne Bland and others. And so I'm going to read the back as kind of like a teaser to the series of these trading cards. I'm going to read the back of Dr. Lafayette's. So Dr. Bernard Lafayette is an award-winning educator, writer, ordained minister, and iconic civil rights activist who worked closely with Reverend James Lawson, Dr. Martin Luther King, Representative John Lewis, Diane Nash, Reverend C.T. Vivian, and countless others. Born in Tampa, Florida in 1940, he attended the American Baptist College in Nashville, where he and Lewis were roommates. He became a central figure in the city's student movement and helped desegregate the city before becoming a freedom rider. Lafayette was instrumental in bringing Selma, Alabama, and voting rights into a national lens when, in 1963, as a member of SNCC, he insisted on going to Selma despite others saying that change could not be created there. Lafayette helped launch the Selma campaigns that led to the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Trained by King, Lawson, and others in nonviolence, Lafayette has spent decades internationalizing nonviolence training through centers, workshops, and interventions in civil conflicts. He has successfully arbitrated conflicts in Wounded Knee, South Dakota, South Africa, and Colombia. So, in other words, he's a legend.
Absolute
He's a legend.
legend.
Absolute legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some little nuggets in there, real quick. John Lewis's roommate. Okay, that's something that like he brings up on these learning tours. Right hand to Martin Luther King. And then there's all this work he did after the civil rights movement. But he's a key fixture of our learning tours. That's one of the ways that most people know him is they experience him on these learning tours, where he tells some of these stories, but also imparts all this great wisdom to the folks who go on this journey. And he's being the glue. He's this glue between, kind of the beginnings and the young folks that were doing the work and the sit-ins and the freedom rides, which he participated in all that. And then he's the one who's like, I want to lead the work in Selma, and he's like one of the behind the scenes people in Selma that leads to the crossing the Edmund Pettus and then eventually the Voting Rights Act. Sorry, Ben, you're going to add something.
Oh no, I was just kind of like tagging on and moving on, right? Like one of his missions is to institutionalize nonviolence, right? When you were talking about Devin, like he was being trained, he was brought up in the movement, right? Like it didn't end just there. He really wanted to spread the philosophy and so that other people can be trained in it and practice it. So part of that mission, like there is a Soma Center for Nonviolence, Truth and Reconciliation where they do nonviolence training. It's like the Institute, like where they do all of this. So we could have done our training there, right? Like, because we're in Selma all the time. It's already a curriculum, and like we know some people there already. But like, Charles, why do we have to do it with Dr. Bernard Lafayette?
Yeah, and there's one in Connecticut. There's probably one in London or something. There's probably nonviolence training centers all over the place. I mean, there's nothing like learning it from the source, right? Like Dr. Bernard tells the story of the last thing that Martin Luther King said to him before he was assassinated. And that's take nonviolence training global, make it an international um, thing, you know, spread it around the world. And he's taken that on as his life's mission. Um, so to get it from the person who got it from Martin Luther King, I mean, that on its own is huge. The other side of that is that Dr. Bernard means so much to us because of these learning tours, because of the relationship that we've built with him, because of, and we'll go into this a little bit later, but what he gets out of these as well. So super meaningful to go directly to him, to the source. Devin, you got a take on that?
I'd say, yeah, it's one thing to learn about nonviolence from, reading, and then it's another thing altogether to hear stories from someone who embodied nonviolence and put their lives at stake. Some of the stories he tells are just like they're just shocking and remarkable, and the level of bravery and the level of commitment. So it's pretty unmatched, I think, to learn about the philosophy from somebody who doesn't just advocate for it, but who has embodied it throughout his life.
Yeah. Yeah, and when he did that live, it was one thing when he was like administering the training, but when we were going through our own sessions and he would chime in and like ask these questions as we were like whiteboarding something, I was it was a reaffirmation that he fully understood it and he could provide guidance that maybe nobody else could. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think part of it is going through it with him. The other is also trying, because like if I remember back to our sessions with him, he never fully went like, this is what nonviolence is. Like this is how you
Right.
do it. It was like very much in the vein of how he delivers stories, right? Roundabout, but he always has a goal. And you're gonna be there, whether you think about it or not, or however long it's gonna take you, right? But you're gonna end up there. So he asked more questions than he answered them, and he made us ask questions more than he delivered, more than like delivered any kind of curriculum. So because of that style of teaching or style of learning, we got stuck. We got stuck on what nonviolence is. Like we're like fully coming into this, like, learning from Dr. Bernard. We're like all hyped up, and we spent like 2 hours trying to figure out what this is. So like let's
Whoa,
lay the
whoa, whoa, whoa. That sounds really, are you sure 2 hours? I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was
We
longer.
were
I still
debating.
don't think we were debating for 2 hours, and I still don't think we got it. This is to be completely transparent with the audience here, okay? When we're telling you stuff here in this training, like we're gonna go into what nonviolence is in just a little bit. It's just as far as we've gotten with it. All right, y'all. Like we did not complete this training as experts or as certified trainers, but we're going to tell you about how far we've gotten and what we think about it. So let's lay some context here for people listening. What do we mean when we say nonviolence? Because this is crucial for how we talk about it showing up in our organization and the work that we do.
Yeah, so yes, we're not experts, and also we I would say we're good enough to train other people because we get the principles. We're
You're
not,
right.
but we're
Yeah,
not. There's more. There's always more we can learn. There's
you're
always more
right.
we can learn.
Yeah. And we are actively training people, by the way. So there's
Yes,
that too. Okay.
yes.
So
But
when
there's the difference between nonviolence as one word
mhm.
and then non hyphen violence. Okay, or as some people say, non dash violence, which some people say it like that. The dash is a hyphen. So, so that's a little inside joke there. What's the difference? There's a big difference, right? Because it's not the absence of violence. It is a
No,
Devin.
that's what we learned. So I have, as part of our definitions and myths of nonviolence, he gave us, Dr. Lafayette gave us this packet of information. And as one of the pieces, one of the nuggets that we discovered was that nonviolence, it says here, is not the opposite of violence. Negative peace and peacefulness without justice are the opposites of violence. Nonviolence is the antidote to violence and negative peace.
Yes. And I will tell you, this podcast is not going to unpack all of this. We're going to introduce some of this to you so that you can explore yourself. Maybe we'll go even deeper on a future podcast. But and then to give you more context, this was our second training with him. So we had encountered these before. It was really a pretty strong debate about how these are applied, and where they exist within the CP community. But that distinction between those two, like the thought of what non-violence is as anti, the opposite of violence, versus the active work uh, pushing back against violence. That is what we where we landed and where we're going to continue to draw our teachings from, and when we train people, what we're already teaching people is that our work is actually already doing that. So many of the principles that we teach and we practice are
Yeah. And I think that's like what drew us to the training in the first place. Cause like we didn't start with nonviolence training with Dr. Bernard Lafayette and then went on to do work at CP, right? We did the work and this was in a way an enrichment of like our practice and what we do. So I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more. For example, Devin, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about your history, not with just Dr. Bernard Lafayette and the nonviolence training, but also doing this work, this justice work, communicating across difference, right? Like you did not start this when you got hired on at Common Power. And so yeah, talk a little bit more about that. How do you carry these principles into the work that you do, and how does it apply here at Common Power for you?
That's a great question. I met Dr. Bernard Lafayette 10 years ago. And it was when I went on my first, we call them now learning tours. And so I went on my first learning tour and I met Dr. Bernard Lafayette and others, other foot soldiers of the movement. And I learned for the first time about nonviolence and this, not just that seeing it as a practice, but seeing it as a way of life and an orientation towards other people and a centering of love, love for yourself and also love for all those around you, regardless of whether you have the same ideology, if you have the same identity. Yeah, uh, that strength of love. And I met Dr. Lafayette, and then I went on to work in some other capacities for racial justice. So I lived in Tutwiler, Mississippi, and worked for the Emmett Till Interpretive Center. And then I also worked for a little while with the Highlander Research and Education Center in Newmarket, Tennessee. And both of these places, I would say that the folks who were at the helm, like at the directors, kind of the folks in charge, they really tried to embody what I would say, what my understanding of what nonviolence is. And especially at the Highlander Research and Education Center, like these were folks who had been a part of the major like initiatives of SNCC. The Highlander was a space where people came together intergenerational and interracially and strategized together. And they practiced nonviolence at Highlander and talked about nonviolence at Highlander. So I just, throughout kind of my work and my learning, principles and ideas around nonviolence have continued to pop up. And I love I love what it stands for. And I also am very aware of the fact that I don't totally understand it yet, because I still like stumble on embodying this philosophy when talking about people who I disagree with and who have caused harm. And when you hear Dr. Lafayette, he is committed. It doesn't matter who he's talking to or who he's engaging with.
Yeah.
He lives this philosophy. And so it's been a philosophy that I've kind of continued to see pop up, and I think is foundational to a lot of people in the social justice movements, like ways of engaging with each other. Yeah.
Yeah,
know
can
if
I
Did you?
ask? Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No, follow up, Ben.
Okay, I was gonna say like, um, and Devin, I'm gonna get a little deep.
Oh,
So,
please, I'm
okay,
down for that.
yeah, I know I can do it with you.
Great.
So,
Great.
because like you've been kind of like talking about it in terms of like this academic journey, right?
Yeah.
Of like you doing like basically these practicums, you know, at these very established places and building up your portfolio in a sense. So like, can I ask from a more personal angle on like your own, like how does it relate to your own identity and positionality in this work and the lessons that you learned from people, right? Because like you do occupy a very unique place in CP as a white woman, and like the way, and you're very conscious of that, the way that you train people, the way that you interact with the rest of staff, how you show up. And so I don't want that to be missed out here as well, because I think that's so important for like the like it almost feels like an honor, right? Like a way of honoring the work that you're so conscious about how you're showing up. So can you speak more to that?
Damn,
That's
that
a
was,
great
oh,
question.
I don't even think I'm allowed. I just swore. I don't know if that's okay. But
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yes, you can. You're on a podcast with me and
all right, cool. Good. I think you put that beautifully. I'm gonna go back and listen to how you said that, because that was awesome. Yeah, I think that um having some of the tenets of what I believe to be nonviolence, like this love, this desire for the beloved community, this focusing on the systemic, like institutionalized, like focusing on those more macro forces versus blaming, individuals. Um, it doesn't mean, accountability is a huge part of the conversation there. You don't get to just throw accountability out, and that's not what nonviolence asks you to do. I think that there were a lot of pieces of nonviolence, or like the philosophy of nonviolence that has informed who I am and has humbled me, because you hear these stories of people practicing this and being in interracial and intergenerational spaces. Like, I know nonviolence existed before the civil rights movement, but that's my knowledge of nonviolence is really rooted in the civil rights movement. And here you have people, in my mind, like building the beloved community, endeavoring to build the beloved community, and practicing love and practicing not being apathetic or being passive or being reticent in the face of violence and conflict, but instead like being, I think it's evolved. Like you embody this love and this what you want to see in others, so much to the point, like so much so that you sacrifice, you will commit the ultimate sacrifice. And I don't think I'm there. Like, I don't have the track record to prove that I could do that, but I do think that um having heroes like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis and Bernard Lafayette and Kate Lafayette and Diane Nash, like I think that has shaped how I show up, because they live their values. Like, they absolutely embody their values and how they want the world to be. And it's I want to be like that, and I want to show up in the work like that. And as a white woman, I think you've got to like be really, really mindful and humble and intentional around your identity and how you do your work. So I think about it a lot and really try and check myself, because that's a constant vigilance in practice if you're going to do this.
I think that I want to keep going with you instead of because I think in our little write up here we're like, yeah, Charles covered this part, but I really want to hear what you have to say on this. So you're doing this, you've been doing this for about a decade, and um, it's only increasingly become more polarized politically. And so that part about the core nonviolence, having like this level of forgiveness for like the other side, folks who are pushing for violence, it's become more and more difficult. So there are those forces that are kind of pulling us apart from each other. And then some of what you mentioned and what you just said, you said things like you've got this, or I see this, and I think you're talking about is common power. So you start to do this training in common power, and you've done it before. What is different about doing it with CP now in this hyper polarized environment? What do you see from, and because we stood up these trainings, when was the first? This is just this year we started doing these trainings, and first with team leads for the first few months of the year, and then now open to everybody for a few sessions, and then now on the ground live while we're knocking on doors with these groups of volunteers. The most recent one was the one in Nevada with 50 people, and a big chunk of them are educators, a big chunk of them are Gen Zers through Action Academy, a big chunk of them are um, some of our retired folks that have been knocking on doors with us, folks from all over the country, in this, as you mentioned, beloved community. How does it how does it feel to do the training now with CP in this?
It's tricky, I think, to answer, because it's a different world than what it
Yeah.
feels like it's a different world than when we started 10 years ago. And our philosophy, our way of leading the trainings has shifted pretty dramatically, and almost like
You and Mary, when you say our, right?
yeah, sorry, yeah, Mary Ingram. When we first started, we were pretty like, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, so deviate me if I
Okay.
am not. But when we first started, I think people were interested in finding out. Now I think they're like hungry for it. We want to
Okay.
know how we can connect with people. I am seeing this possibility of an incredibly polarized and like um inequitable, divisive, violent society. Like that's a possibility that we see right now. And then we also have where we want to go, and common power wants to go, which is not in that direction at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. And so I think part of it is that how we've done the trainings over the years has changed, and now it's a lot more like it's much more in the line of kind of nonviolence, in terms of very welcoming and inclusive and empowering and building of community and building of trust. And then once you build that trust, then maybe you start to have deeper conversations about identity, and people are hungry to connect. I think at least the folks who are showing up to we might be a bit biased, right? Because the people who show up to knock on the doors with us are
They're
folks.
ready.
They're ready.
Yeah.
They want this. They want community. And we know from all the research just how good community is for your health. Like on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they think it should truly be like the one below all the rest. Because I mean, we're born connected to someone. We need people. We need connection. So yeah, I think now people are hungry for it, and Mary and I have figured out a way. I think in part from, I don't know, but just we figured out a way to make it more of a welcoming, like welcoming conversation. That because because it's so polarized, people are nervous if you say we're going to talk about bias or we're going to talk about race or we're going to talk about identity. I think people are like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting into it. We're getting into the polarization. This could be sketchy." And so we've really tried to change our approach, and I feel like people are also coming to it with a whole different level of enthusiasm and engagement, and those two parts coupled have made for really effective workshops.
Yeah, can I add a little bit here as well? And
Please.
like Devin, we talked a little bit about this too, like in Las Vegas, right? About how this training is situated and the reactions to it. And I think like the closest similarity I can give here is that like some neighborhood improvement projects, like policy wise, like are actually not economic, it's around aesthetic, right? It's about like cleaning up like the streets. It's about making sure that people feel like they can walk their neighborhood, installing lights, cleaning up like unwanted graffiti, stuff like that. And it's all to build a sense of belonging. Because when people feel like they belong in a space, they want to take care of it. They want to invest in it. They want to make sure that it's going to be comfortable and safe and inviting and welcoming and all of that. And I feel like that's what we do at Common Power, where like we create first a community where people want to be at. And then because they feel that sense of community, then they want to take care of each other. Even like on whatever spectrum of stranger or like close friend that you have, right? Like you're invested in keeping this community thriving. And so I think part of the hunger of connection is that want. How do I take care of the people around me in this community? Show me what to do, give me the tools, right? And so like these conversations, this training, these philosophies and principles are like lived out when as like a way to deepen trust, as a way to enrich community. Like we don't use this to create community. Like you can't do this training and the people coming out of it like become suddenly a community with a capital C, right? Like that's not how this works. People have to want to take care of each other for them to get the most out of this.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, because what we've seen is when we do the trainings on the ground, it's its own special force that it takes because people are together, they're in proximity with each other, they've traveled across the country to be together, and now they're engaging in something that can help support them connect with each other. And I think we've seen that folks really respond well to that.
Okay, so we have very effectively advertised your training.
Yes, thank you so much.
Right now, though, there's not one on the website yet, but you said that one is coming soon in
Yes.
July, right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
We'll be offering some in July.
Okay, so the call to action for everybody is to keep an eye out for the events page on commonpower.org. It'll be there. But if you need to mark your calendar today, right now, for something that's already planned, you're doing a lecture.
Yes.
Devin's doing a lecture, a series, right?
A two-parter. I just love two-parters apparently. Yeah, so
All right.
it'll be I believe it's going to be on the 21st and the 29th of August, and it's about an hour and a half, and they're going to be highly interactive. Highly interactive. So come ready to talk with folks, learn stuff, and also chat with folks and apply. It's basically a training.
It's a workshop?
Yes.
So like breakout rooms and writing stuff down, maybe?
Oh, you bet. Lots of that.
Okay. All right. What's it called?
It's under the umbrella of Dialogue for Democracy, but it's dialogue. Oh my gosh, what is it called?
Oh no.
I had it here.
Whatever. It has your picture on it.
Yeah, it's got
And
a
it
picture.
says
This is the plague of academia. Like things are just too long and everything sounds the same.
It's like dialogue about identity and across difference.
Let's
That's what
do
it
it.
is. Oh
all
yeah.
right. All right. Okay. All right. So say the dates one more time.
The 21st and the 29th of August.
Okay. All right. If you're convinced by this, you're like, okay, whatever she's selling, I'm buying. August. Look for those dates in August and look on our events page for future trainings for all volunteers, which are really cool. Um, Thanks for that, Devin. Thank you for that. And we're gonna stick around, don't go anywhere. We're gonna close out the podcast with some of our regular featured pieces. What's next, Ben?
Well, let's do a question from the community, actually.
Okay, question from the community. It's from Diane. Diane says it's Wisconsin Fieldwork. Oh, I'm glad we have the person who's in charge of fieldwork here
Thank
to
you.
answer this.
Yes.
Hello,
Hello.
hello, exclamation mark. What are the September dates for Wisconsin Fieldwork? I've attended the Fieldwork sessions 101, 102, and 103, as well as the Zoom with the Wisconsin team. Wow, this person's ready. Diane is ready. The host mentioned tentative dates in September. What is my next step to connect and join you in Wisconsin? Thanks so much, signed Diane. What are
All
the
right,
next steps? This
Diane.
person is ready to go. They're as ready as you can get. The only thing they
Whew.
haven't done is attended Devin's training. So
Yeah.
when are the dates? When are they going?
Okay, so a couple answers here. I will say that our September dates in particular are a little in flux because we have to kind of like figure that out with our partners still, the Wisconsin Democrats. But right now, tentative dates for September is September 27th to not November, my bad, that's a whole month. September 27th to October 2nd. So the
Okay.
second weekend after we start all traveling. So however, you can find all of these dates for all teams on our volunteer travel guide. So all right, y'all, it's going to be a lot. If you go to our website
Oh
and
no.
then you click volunteer and then you do find action, you click door knocking, and then there's the travel guide. We're working on it. It should be more accessible than that, but
Yeah. It's
we're
only
working
10
on it.
clicks.
But yeah, these dates are tentative still. Any dates after
Okay.
September 20th are tentative, and we will update them as soon as we finalize them with both the team leads and our partners on the travel guide. You can, yeah.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Yeah, there's another one here about Wisconsin too. So we got a lot of questions about Wisconsin. So we gotta get folks who are ready to go to Wisconsin prepared. But the one of the key reasons why our dates are so much in flux is because we don't develop them on our own. We develop them in cooperation with our partners, and they change them based on what's going on the ground. So we follow the lead of our partner organizations. That's one thing we do at Common Power. Okay. Speaking of one thing, Ben, what's our thing for this episode?
All right, let's close it out with this. Okay. What is one thing you always try to notice or explore in a new place when traveling? And so I can start because this question's a little ambiguous, which is why I will model and
Okay.
see where it goes. So the thing that I always look out for when I'm in someplace new is what the streets look like. So literally the roads, like how are the sidewalks? If there are sidewalks, are the roads big, small? Is there a boulevard in the middle of them every now and then? Because to me, how people move in an urban area determines a lot about how they live their life and what the priorities of the city are. So I'm always on the lookout for
Okay.
that. Yeah. And also we walk on those
Okay.
streets. Okay. Like walkers, we have to walk on those sidewalks. So I'm always looking
That's
out
right.
for those things too.
We have to walk when there's no sidewalk.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a safety point. Okay. All right, Devin.
I think I look at architecture. I love looking at
Mm,
different buildings and getting curious about how long that's been there and who decided it was going to look like that. And um, also like the amount of space people have, right? Like, are there a ton of apartments or are there big houses with lots of space between them? Like yeah, I think I'm kind of stealing part of yours, Ben, which isn't fair of me. So I'll stick more in my own lane and say architecture. But I think, yeah, where and how people live, I think I'm just super interested by it and what the buildings look like and why.
mm, okay. Okay. All right. For me, I mean, I definitely look at the people first. you know, how intermixed they are across race and maybe income level, like the socioeconomic mix. Uh, I mean, gentrification is everywhere in this country. Um, but yeah, look at that and like how the people are doing and signage about people, like things that people are working on or rallies or get-togethers, community stuff. And maybe that's what we all do. We all look at like what people doing. How are people doing it here where we've landed? What are the signs of that? Good.
That's a good question.
Love it.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's a good one thing. Did we say where we are? We didn't even say that. I think we
We
just
kind
were
of
like,
did.
we're in Seattle.
Well, no, we kind of did. It was just not in its own segment. You can go back and listen
Okay.
to it. It's all good, y'all.
Fine. I mean, I just wanted to shout out to the team in Arizona right now.
Oh, they're
We would
home.
have
They're
said
home. They're home.
that.
They're
Okay,
home.
they're home.
Mhm.
Shout out to the team that was just in Arizona. Shout out to Jessica out there. Went from Nevada to Arizona. My
Wow.
goodness gracious.
Well, almost everyone did on that trip. Just two
Wow.
people
Really?
landed fresh in Phoenix. Yeah. So shout out to Greg, Ed, Alejandro, and Mariana, in addition to Jessica,
Okay.
who went from Las
Wow.
Vegas to Phoenix. Yeah.
That's some commitment.
That's real commitment. And you only get that with a beloved community. All right. Bringing it home. Thank you. Devin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
It's
having
been
me.
real. Yes. Everybody, check out the website, check out Devin's work. Check us out on socials at Our Common Power and listen to this podcast. If you're not listening to it right now on your favorite podcast channel, find it on the website. It's really strange to tell people where to listen to a podcast in a podcast episode.
You
That's
should
like
just
the
say,
normal thing to do.
no, yeah, we shouldn't do that. I think we should just say, share this with a friend. If you're watching this or listening, and
Share
just share
this
it with
with
a
a
friend.
friend.
Share it
You
with
know
a
what?
friend.
Share this with a friend. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you're able to see everyone's expressions, then you'll get even more out of it. So
I didn't even know that was no
watch it on
way.
YouTube. Oh no,
I
oh no,
didn't know it
Devin, it's okay.
was-
It's okay.
No.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh.
okay.
surprise! It's
Don't
on
watch it
YouTube.
on YouTube. Just listen to it, please. Oh gosh.
Devin, did you also know that we don't do any post-production edits? That it's like whatever's
That's right.
there
No
is there.
edits. No edits.
Oh no. All right.
100% authentic. Thanks for joining, everybody. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Goodbye.